Hey everybody, Tim here with today's review of Doctor Who, story number 20, The Myth Makers. This is an okay episode. It didn't really, grab me the way that I had hoped it would, because, this story is 4 episodes, and all 4 of those are missing. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it all the way through the second Doctor. When I'm just listening to the audio, it's very, very difficult to, for me personally to get involved, which is kind of weird because I listen to a lot of audiobooks because I travel all the time for work and stuff like that. So I listen to books more than I read them. But for episodes like this, there's just something about I have to watch it. I have to see it and be visually engaged with it. So this one was very difficult. It was kind of interesting to kind of watch all the different stuff going on. Now there was a lot of stuff going on in the back part, the behind the scenes for this story, where the previous 2 stories that I did were filmed with the previous production block, and then there was the break, and then this is technically the new start to that. And so at this point, William Hartnell is the only original person from the previous team. He's the only original actor, and at this point they've changed producers, they've changed writers, they've changed everything. And the rumors are that William Hartnell had a very, very difficult time with some of these new people and some of these changes, and he just wasn't getting along with them. And they were bringing in all of these guest star actors, and he thought that he was being one-upped basically, and so he wasn't liking it. The actress that played Vicki was also kind of outspoken, how she didn't really care for her character and the stuff that they were doing with her. And, I mean, that happens from time to time, but in this case, for this storyline, a little bit of a spoiler, the writers actually wrote her out, whereas with Susan and Ian and Barbara, those actors actually asked to leave, which is, for Stephen, for example, most of the lines from Barbara went to Stephen because they had already written all of these episodes for those characters, and then they had to change them. Whereas in this case, they actually got rid of Vicki against her will. She wasn't necessarily happy with the way things were going in the show, but she didn't want to leave the show either. And then she got the script, and it's oh, by the way, this is it, you're done. And that's it. So a lot of stuff is going on behind the scenes. So overall, this episode is, like I said, it's an okay episode. It deals with the Greeks and the Trojans, the Trojan War based on Homer and stuff like that. And we from the very beginning, the TARDIS materializes and the Doctor breaks up a fight, and Achilles ends up being one of them. And he thinks that the Doctor is Zeus. And so most of this episode, from what I can gather, is the Greeks and the Trojans fighting, and the Doctor kind of being in the middle with them thinking he's Zeus, and Stephen gets captured, of course, and the temple vanishes, which is the TARDIS, where Vicki comes out and she falls in love with this guy, and it's kind of a cute story, but whatever. I like some of the scenes where we see Vicki and Stephen in jail, and they're talking to each other through the wall. Some of that's really good, and they're trying to figure out what's real and what's not. Where they're oh, the Trojan horse was never real. Homer made that up. Based on the things around him, the Cyclops ends up being the prison guard and stuff like that. And of course, with the Doctor being there, they do create the war horse, and just overall, it kind of plays out the way you would expect. And finally, we get to the end where the big twist is that Vicki stays with the guy that she falls in love with, and the Doctor basically just leaves her. He's just okay, bye. And But at this time, Stephen is very sick, and Catalina kind of comes with them, and she's the handmaiden. And at the time, she and Vicki are really getting along. But as Catalina helps Stephen and the Doctor into the TARDIS, and the Doctor's okay, we're leaving now. And Catalina's what's going on? So technically, she's the new companion, but with the spoiler alert, she doesn't last very long. Let's just put it that way. So overall, I would say this is a good storyline. I wish that it was still in intact. Like if they ever animated this storyline, that would be great, and I would love to watch that. For those who have seen this one, what did you think about the whole Trojan War and the Greeks and the Trojans? What did you think about Vicki leaving and kind of being written out? Like, could you tell? I could kind of tell by the way that her character leaves that it wasn't necessarily the actress's choice and that it was kind of forced upon her. So what did you think about that? What did you think about just kind of the story overall? Thank you guys for everything, and I will see you guys next time for the massive storyline and the 100th episode, The Daleks' Master Plan.